Welcome to How to Write a Resume, one of the online workshops created by the Office of Career Services. In this workshop, you'll learn how to create an effective resume for your job or internship search. First, we'll discuss the purpose of a resume. Then we'll outline the basic sections of an effective resume and the information that should be included. The first section is your contact information. The second section is your education section. Next, we'll discuss the experience section and how to effectively describe your activities and experiences to target the opportunity you're seeking. The last section we'll go over is the skills and interests section. Then we'll discuss what you don't need to include on your resume or some common items that are typically unnecessary. Finally, we'll talk about the final steps you can take to create a finished product and ensure that your resume is ready to submit to an employer. What's the purpose of a resume? The resume's main purpose is to get the employer to invite you for an interview. So, your resume should highlight your strongest assets and differentiate you from other candidates seeking similar positions. Typically, employers take between 15 to 30 seconds to look over a resume, which is why it's important to be brief and informative when describing your education, abilities, and experience. You should always keep the type of position you're seeking in mind when writing your resume so that it reflects the skill set the employer would value. If you plan to apply to different types of positions, you'll want to adjust your resume where possible to reflect what may be different skill set requirements. How should a resume be organized? Your resume should be divided into 4 main sections: contact information, education, experience, and skills and interests. The first, your contact information, is the least complicated but one of the most important sections. Your name is usually centered at the top of the page. Underneath your name should be your primary phone number and email address. Be sure to use a professional email address, such as your Harvard email. If you're currently a student and want to use a temporary school address and home address, you can place the addresses on the left and right of the page. The next section, education, should list your university, your expected degree and graduation date, and your concentration. If you've written a thesis, that should be listed in this section too, after your concentration. If you haven't declared a concentration, you can leave that part blank or list an anticipated concentration. Include selected honors if you've received recognition for outstanding academic work. It's common for many freshmen and sophomores to list high school information on the resume, but the space you devote to honors or activities from high school should depend on their contribution to the total message of your resume. If you've committed a lot of time to paid work during the academic year, or to an extracurricular activity such as varsity sport, you may want to insert a phrase such as worked 20 hours a week to help defray cost of tuition, or committed 25 hours per week to the Harvard varsity field hockey program. A few other items you may want to include are relevant coursework. For example, this person highlighted a course in economics because she's applying to a job that requires quantitative skills. Many students wonder whether GPA or SAT scores should appear on a resume. This senior is going through the on-campus interviewing process, and it's typical of many employers in the on-campus interviewing program to require GPA and SAT scores, but for most other fields, it's optional. Your experience section should be the most substantial part of your resume. It outlines the past activities, positions, and leadership roles you've held, and how they qualify you for a future job or internship. Keep in mind that your extracurricular experiences can be just as valuable as any work, internship, or volunteer experience you may have had. The section headings under experience will depend on what you're applying for. For instance, if you're applying for an internship at a theater and you've previously worked or been involved in performing arts, you can title a section Performing Arts Experience. It's okay to divide your experience section into 2 sections so that your other experiences will be under the heading Additional or Other Experience. When titling each experience, list the organization first and then your title, unless your titles are all highly relevant to the position you're applying for. In this case, you should consider listing the title before the organization. Then, within your sections, be sure to put your experiences in reverse chronological order, or most recent first. How should you describe your experiences? Under each listing, write a concise description of the functions you performed and the goals you achieved, using the vocabulary of the industry to which you're applying. Use action verbs to describe your accomplishment. These are often ED verbs when put in the past tense, such as managed, led, collaborated, or coordinated. Quantify your achievements wherever possible. For example, developed training program for 25 charity runners. A helpful list of action verbs is available on the OCS website and in the resume guide. Avoid using phrases such as helped, assisted, or responsible for, as this doesn't communicate to an employer that you actually completed the tasks you were assigned. The final section of your resume is commonly called your skills and interests section. In this section, you can indicate your level of fluency in a foreign language as well as any software programs with which you're proficient. Keep in mind that if you list knowledge of a language, whether it's fluency, proficiency, or a working knowledge, be prepared to be expected to converse in the language during your interview. Please note that if you're looking for a tech position, your tech skills won't be listed in this section. They'll be listed right after the education section. Finally, a brief list of interests that haven't been included on your resume, such as travel, playing an instrument, or a type of sport you enjoy, can signify that you're a well-rounded person and may establish an initial bond of common interest with an interviewer. There are a few things you don't need to include on your resume. You don't need a job objective section, as your cover letter will be a way to outline your objective and tailor it to each job application. Most college students don't need a summary of qualifications. Keep in mind, however, that if you're a graduate student or alum with some years of work experience, a summary may be useful to help communicate your qualifications to employers more clearly. You don't need to list references or include a statement such as references available upon request. The employer or organization will ask for them later if you're a top candidate for the position. Personal information, such as your age, gender, political or religious affiliation, or a photograph, should not appear on your resume. Keep in mind that if you're applying to somewhere outside the U.S., resume requirements may be different. Check out the resume guidelines by country on Going Global, which can be accessed through the OCS website. Your resume should be neat, attractive, and easy to read. Choose one type style and use it throughout. Serif fonts, such as Times New Roman, are easiest to read and often preferred. Beware of using very small type. Between 10 and 12-point font is standard, but a compact font such as Garamond can be too small in a 10-point. Be purposeful with your use of capitals, boldface, bullet points, positioning, and spacing. 1-inch margins, but not less than 3/4 inch, on all sides will help prevent it from looking crowded. Make sure you can properly convert your resume to a PDF document if an employer asks for it. Finally, and most importantly, double-check your resume for spelling and grammatical errors. A silly mistake can mean losing your chance for an interview. For additional help creating an effective resume, attend one of our resume writing workshops or visit OCS during daily drop-in hours. Also, check out resume resources on the OCS website, including our downloadable resume templates, or pick up the OCS resume guide in our first floor resource area. We hope you enjoyed this tutorial and appreciate your feedback.